Hi, I'm Kevin. This is the Wallpaper 4. And today's Wallpaper 4 is a weird little trip through time. From the early 70s blues, through one of the ugliest Warriors seasons ever, into the Astros finally waking up from a decade-long October nap. And then finally, a Panthers defensive line that was briefly just beating the hell out of quarterbacks. So we started in 1971 with Wayne Connelly. Wayne Connelly wasn't in St. Louis very long, but he showed up at a really interesting point in Blues history. The Blues had been to the Stanley Cup Final in each of their first three seasons. Then 1970-71 arrived, and the NHL realigned, expansion started to change the league, and St. Louis was trying to figure out what the next version of the franchise was supposed to look like. Connelly came over from Detroit during the season, and this wasn't just a young guy that they were hoping would eventually figure it out. He was already 31. He'd been around. He played for Montreal, Boston, Minnesota, and Detroit before getting to St. Louis. But Connelly could score. In only 28 regular season games, In only 28 regular season games for the Blues that year, Connelly put up 21 points, 5 goals, and 16 assists. Then he added another 3 points in 6 playoff games. The moment I'm using for him came on March 26, 1971, on the road against the California Golden Seals. Yes, the California Golden Seals. Incredible name, right? St. Louis won a track meet, 8-5. Connelly had a goal and 2 assists, 3 points in one night, during what was already a very productive cameo with the Blues. That's kind of his Blues story in miniature, because he wasn't there long enough to become one of the names everybody remembers. But when he was here, he produced. Connelly played in only 43 regular season games total as a Blue over parts of 2 seasons. He scored 10 goals, 21 assists. Then he moved on and became a big-time scorer in the WHA. Not every guy in franchise history needs a statue. Sometimes you're just looking for the stretch where a player mattered to his team, and Connelly had one. Now, jump ahead 30 years. 'Corey Blount. This one's from a very different place in franchise history. The 2001 Golden State Warriors were terrible. 16 wins, 65 losses. And we're just a couple pieces away. That's more like maybe something interesting is going to happen during the mascot race. Maybe they'll give away free hot dogs. I don't know. Golden State acquired Corey Blount from Phoenix on January 26, 2001, along with Paul McPherson and Ruben Garces in exchange for Vinny Del Negro. Blount was already an NBA journeyman by then. He's a 6'10" big man who'd been a first-round pick of the Bulls in '93, and also had spent time with the Lakers, Cavaliers, and Suns. For a lousy Warriors team, he actually gave them some legitimate work on the glass. Then came April 13th, 2001 against Denver. Golden State lost the game. Denver beat them 108-92. Of course, they lost most of their games, right? But Blount went off for 15 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. 8 of those rebounds were offensive. And that's the Corey Blount game for me. It's not some franchise-defining victory. There's no playoff implication. Nobody's making a documentary about Warriors Nuggets from April 2001. But that's exactly why these guys are fun. Somebody still had to play those games. Somebody still had a good night. On April 13th, Corey Blount was banging around underneath the basket, grabbing 15 rebounds for a team headed towards 65 losses. If you watch that game live, there's a good chance you remember Blount more fondly than someone looking at the season 25 years later ever could. And that counts. Now we get to a game that did matter. Tony Sipp. I'm not here to relitigate Houston and 2017 every day. Yeah, they cheated. All right. This channel is for all 124 teams. I started with the Astros because I know the Astros. We're talking about Tony Sipp today. He arrived in Houston 2014 after San Diego released him from AAA. That worked out pretty damn well. By 2015, Sipp had become Houston's primary left-handed bullpen weapon. He had the best earned run average of his career, 1.99 in 54 and a third innings, 62 strikeouts. Suddenly, the Astros weren't rebuilding anymore. October 6, 2015, Yankee Stadium, American League wildcard game. The Astros hadn't played a postseason game since the 2005 World Series. Dallas Keuchel gave Houston 6 scoreless innings on short rest. The Astros had a 2-0 lead when A.J. Hinch went to the bullpen. First man out, Tony Sipp. And this is where, historically, relievers can be easy to overlook. Keuchel owned the game. Colby Rasmus and Carlos Gomez hit the home runs. Jose Altuve knocked in another run. But somebody had to get through the 7th. Sipp came in, walked one hitter, struck out one, and threw a scoreless inning. Will Harris handled the 8th. Luke Gregerson handled the 9th. Astros win 3-0. Season continues. And Sipp wasn't just good that night. He pitched in all 6 Houston postseason games in 2015. He officially allowed 0 earned runs in 5 1/3 innings, and he held opponents to a .056 batting average. And there's a footnote, because he was on the mound during that nightmare 8th inning, Game 4, Kansas City. We don't need to dwell on that. Actually, we do remember it. That's Astro history too. But if I'm picking one Sipp moment, give me Yankee Stadium. A 2-run playoff lead, 50,000 people waiting for Houston to screw up, and Sipp gets 3 outs. That's bullpen work. Finally, 2019. Dontari Poe. And Dontari Poe was enormous, literally. That's my first scouting report. 6'3", over 340 pounds, somehow athletic enough that Kansas City occasionally lets him play on the offense. Carolina signed him in 2018 to replace star Lutulelli in the middle of the defensive line. That first season was pretty quiet, just 1 sack. But Poe started to become much more disruptive in 2019. By early November, the Panthers were 4-3 and coming off a terrible 51-13 loss to San Francisco. So now Tennessee comes to Charlotte, and the Panthers badly need a reset. They got one. Carolina beat the Titans 30-20. Christian McCaffrey went nuts. The Panthers' defense sacked Ryan Tannehill 4 times. One of those belonged to Dontari Poe, and it was a proper big man sack. Poe used an overarm swim move, got through the interior, and dumped Tannehill for a 7-yard loss first quarter. Hi, Clara. Hey, Looney Q. NFL.com still has the play singled out in Poe's highlights. That sack also represented what Poe's second Panthers season briefly looked like. He finished 2019 with 4 sacks in only 11 games. That's his highest total since his Pro Bowl years in KC. Unfortunately, he tore his quad against New Orleans later that season, went on injured reserve. After the season, Carolina declined his option, and his Panthers career was over. So it wasn't a long stay. But on November 3rd, 2019, you had this gigantic defensive tackle blowing through the middle of Tennessee's line, while Carolina's defense helped get the season back to 5-3. And for today, that's the moment. Hello, Martina. Hello, Svetlana. That's the wallpaper for August 18th. We started with Wayne Connelly putting up 3 points for the Blues, 1971. 30 years later, Corey Blount grabbed 15 rebounds for a terrible Warriors team. Then Tony Sipp got 3 enormous outs at Yankee Stadium. And finally, Dontari Poe swallowed Ryan Tannehill in Charlotte. 4 players, 4 different levels of fame, but all 4 left something behind worth remembering. And those 4 are on my wallpaper today. And that's what this series is about. My wallpaper. Now I'll change the wallpaper again tomorrow. We'll find 4 more. I'm Kevin. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for sticking around. Like and subscribe and watch another one. I hope to see you later.